In the world of fighting, raw power often writes the rules, and sometimes fate throws the smallest warriors into the jaws of giants. But every now and then, those little fighters prove they're not to be underestimated. Like heroes from the big screen, they rise against impossible odds and bring down monsters once thought unbeatable. In this video, you'll witness real-life battles where Davids don't just defeat Goliaths, they shatter them. Welcome to the fight game. Let's begin. Enter Julius Long, a towering giant, infamous for mocking his opponents and picking on smaller fighters just to crush them for sport. He was brutal, confident, and cold. But his reign of terror met its match when a fearless warrior named Hemi Ohio stepped up. The crowd was behind Ohio. Every heart in the arena beat for the underdog. But when the bell rang, hope quickly turned into despair. Long unleashed a ruthless assault, battering Ohio with devastating force. The smaller man looked helpless, manhandled like a child. Worse still, Long disrespected him at every turn, stomping on his pride with open contempt. But champions aren't made in comfort. They're forged in moments like this. Summoning every ounce of will, Ohio struck back. He landed a vicious uppercut, then a crushing left hook. Blow by blow, he clawed his way back, turning the tide. The giant was now cornered, reeling. Ohio unleashed a storm, pounding Long until there was nowhere left to run. The crowd roared, the ring shook, and then, the final shot. A clean, devastating blow that dropped the arrogant giant to the canvas. Justice was served. David didn't just beat Goliath, he broke him.
Oh, work out of there. Uppercut left, fine side of the referee. There's that left hook again. That one wrong with it.
Enter Bob Sapp, a wild powerhouse of destruction, all muscle, rage, and chaos. Across the ring stood Tivadar Kungli, a 47-year-old veteran, champion of the so-called Retirement League. Old, undersized, and written off by everyone, he looked like a sacrificial lamb thrown to the monstrous American. But when the bell rang, everything changed. Grandpa didn't show up to survive. He showed up to teach a lesson. Bob Sapp quickly shook off the surprise and came swinging, hurling punches hard enough to scatter Kungli's memories across the canvas. The veteran was rocked, and for a moment, it looked like the end. But the old warrior wasn't done. Fired. Up and full of fight, Kungli charged back into the fray. What followed was a beatdown drenched in fatherly wisdom. Bob Sapp learned the golden rule the hard way. Respect your elders, or get a dad-style whooping. From bell to bell, the veteran dismantled the muscle-bound beast, punch by punch, breaking his rhythm, his pride, and finally, his will. The crowd went wild as Sapp, once the image of brute dominance, collapsed under the weight of a relentless old man. In the end, the giant had nothing left to give. He quit, defeated and disgraced. This was David versus Goliath in its purest form. Courage versus raw size, and it didn't stop there. In another clash, a humble young fighter stood across from a tatted-up juggernaut, an overpumped colossus brimming with arrogance. Before the fight, the giant mocked and humiliated the underdog, certain of an easy victory. But the second the bell rang, his smirk vanished, wiped away like dust in a downpour. Within moments, the young fighter had the monster cornered, unloading a flurry of strikes. The brute, once so sure of himself, looked more like a terrified rabbit than a warrior. And just like that, the underdog proved a timeless truth. The bigger the giant, the louder the crash.
10 seconds to go in the round. There we go. And he's down. Now once again, 17-0.
The little guy didn't just win. He dismantled the giant and left him permanently humbled. It was nothing short of a clash of extremes. On one side, a Russian muscle freak, bursting with steroids and ego. On the other, an ordinary 18-year-old, fresh, out of high school, barely done tossing his graduation cap. Nobody expected much from the kid, but what unfolded was a masterclass in heart, grit, and timing. David didn't just beat Goliath, he broke him. Maybe the young fighter dreamed of proving himself by taking down the biggest bully in the yard. But the moment real punches started flying, that dream shattered like glass on concrete.
By 35 pounds.
Now, that's going to be more than 33 pounds more than his opponent gets in the decision. So it could be a factor if this goes to the distance.
The muscle freak turned savage, unleashing a relentless barrage, hammering the poor kid with monstrous force.
In the black with the white trim.
Soltysek coming out like a fireball. Big right hands.
Elikoff is a big man at 229 pounds, and he looks very...
It looked like the little guy was finished. But in a split second, he did what every teenager dreams of. He turned the fight around and flipped the script in front of a roaring crowd. At the end of 2015, an exotic giant from Africa named Andrew Thompson stepped into the ring expecting an easy feast. His opponent? The visibly out-of-shape Ismail Lazar, who looked more like a fan who wandered into the ring than a fighter. But appearances were deceiving. Before the bell, Thompson stood tall, literally looking down on his high-calorie prey. And once the match began, he went straight to work, delivering a brutal low kick that smacked Lazar's head like a warning shot. But Lazar wasn't just hungry for redemption, he was starving. He launched into a ferocious assault, turning the ring into his personal torture chamber. The giant, stunned by the ferocity, struggled to keep up. Oh my goodness, Israel. And then came one of the most iconic mismatches in modern boxing, David Haye versus Nikolai Valuev. It was David versus Goliath in every sense of the word. Haye, the smaller man, stepped into the ring with the Russian giant, a human mountain. As the bell rang, Haye made his mission clear. He wasn't there to survive, he was there to win. He gave everything he had, throwing punches like thunderbolts against a skyscraper.
Soltysek does not have a traditional boxer stance. Tends to
serious damage.
You can see he throws kind of a clubbing left and right. Breathing heavy already, looks like he may be a little bit fatigued. Whoa.
David floated like a butterfly, and with every strike he stung like a bee. He gave the giant no peace, no pause, no time to breathe. Despite unleashing a storm of over 100 punches, the towering Nikolai Valuev stood firm like a mountain, carved from stone. Valuev's strikes were few, but each one carried the weight of doom. Yet David Haye had already charted his path to victory. With speed, precision, and footwork, he chipped away at the giant, countering every heavy blow with 10 of his own. As the final minutes ticked down, Haye unleashed a brutal combination that rattled the Goliath to his core, his knees buckling with every shot. It's hard to believe, but the giant survived. Barely. It wasn't strength or skill that kept him standing. It was sheer luck. But there was no doubt who won. David Haye was crowned the WBA heavyweight champion of the world. The little man with the heart of a lion stood tall in victory, and then came another showdown. A fiery red-haired underdog, half the size of his opponent, stepped into the ring to face a brute 3 times his size. The crowd thought he was insane. But under that wild red hair, a strategy was already in motion. From the first bell, the little man was everywhere, sticking to the giant like glue, neutralizing the size difference in seconds. And to the crowd's shock, the towering opponent had less power than a winded child. Once the underdog realized the brute was useless in close quarters, he went to work, executing his plan with flawless precision. And within seconds, the giant hit the canvas. The red-haired warrior had pulled off the impossible without even breaking a sweat. Size isn't always what decides a fight, and this video proved it perfectly. There's the right hand. Oh, it's over. It's over. If you wouldn't want to find yourself in the ring with monsters like these, give this video a like. This has been Boxing Game. Thanks for watching. Stay fearless, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next round.